Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. In today's session, we'll be basically looking at non-probability sampling techniques. If we look into the major characteristics of non-probability sampling, the first and foremost characteristic is that it is not equal likely chance for all the respondents of the population to be part of the sample. Now, it is one of the biggest drawback actually. And here you can see that the researcher has a lot of freedom in choosing the samples, and basically it is on the ease of the researcher's administration of the sampling technique that we use non-probability sampling. And because of that, it is liable to be biased. There are a lot of bias that can creep up. And another disadvantage is it is not representative of the population. Whereas if you're using probability sampling, we can understand that it represents the population in many sense. Now, we will not be able to administer inferential statistics if we are adopting non-probability sampling techniques. So we have basically 4 types of non-probability sampling techniques. The first one is convenience. The second one is judgmental. We have quota, and the last one is snowball sampling. We'll first of all check on the convenience sampling. It is the most simplest type of sampling, and the choice of the respondents is left to the researcher. Now, it's researcher's convenience as whom to take as a sample. Now, the one particular person is chosen because he is just convenient for the researcher, and they happen to be in the right place at the right time. There is no logic or anything behind. That particular respondent was there, that is why I asked that particular person. And it's not a random sampling as such. Now, it's one of the least expensive sampling technique and least time consuming, because you don't have to roam around or check for that one particular sample as such. Whoever is in front of you, you do that. And the subjects are easily available in this because you are in the midst of the population. Now, take a random sample as an example. Now, just imagine like I'm conducting a viva. Now, if I'm conducting a viva and if I'm administering a convenience sampling, I would rather sit in front of my chair, and as per my convenience, I might take the people in the first row because that is most convenient for me to ask to them. So I just call up the names of the people in the front row and ask them the question. So it is my convenience. That is called convenience sampling. Now, if you're looking at this particular table here, now convenience sampling, I've divided into 5 different groups. Now, imagine you have a class of 25 students. I have divided these 25 students into 5 different classes, 5 different groups. Now, and the group D was sitting somewhere in front. So that was the most convenient for me. So I selected all of them. That is why I have highlighted the group D. So researcher found group D assembled at a place together. So he decided to collect information from them as per his convenience. So this is all about convenience sampling. We look into the second sampling type of non-probability sampling, that is judgmental sampling. Now, in judgmental sampling, it is a kind of convenience sampling, but here the subject is selected based on the judgment of the researcher. I'm taking this particular subject because according to me, I am sure that he will be able to give me the right answer to this particular question that I'm asking. Okay, this means that the researcher uses his judgment to decide who to include in his sample. He uses his reason, he uses his the feelings or intuition or gut feeling, like this particular person will be able to give me an answer for this particular research. Now, they choose elements believed to be representative of the population that they are interested in. Now, if you take the example of a new product being developed, now imagine you have an inhaler for asthma, and this particular inhaler is used by only those patients who are having asthma. And you cannot ask this to anybody who are not at all used this before. So according to me as a researcher, my judgment feels like the patients of asthma has to answer this particular research. So I know one particular person who is an asthma patient. So I'll go in search of that particular person and ask the questions related to this research to him. So basically, and maybe I'll have more people like that who are affected with asthma. So that is how you take samples for judgmental sampling. It is your judgment, it is the researcher's gut feeling that that particular person will be able to give me the answer. So that is what is known as judgmental. And if you look into this particular table here, again I have divided a class of 25 into 5 different groups. Now in class A, I felt like, according to my judgment, I felt like the number 2 and number 4 are the right people, and in group C I found again like number 13 and 14 are the right people to be selected. In group E I found 21 and 25. It was just my feeling as a researcher. I just felt like they would be giving me the right response. So the drawback again here is like it is not representative because I have completely avoided B and group B and group D. Okay, this is a little bit of an understanding about judgmental sampling. Next, we look into a sampling technique called quota sampling. Now, quota sampling can be looked into as a two-stage restricted judgmental sampling. Now, what do you mean by two-stage sampling? Now, in quota sampling, first of all, I'll tell you how does this happen. Now imagine you have made some pizzas as well as you have made some cakes in your house. Now, first of all, you have to divide the population into subgroups. That is the first step in quota sampling. Now, what is the entire population? Entire thing is like you have made close to 10 of these items where you have 4 cakes and 6 pizzas. So that is the first step. You divide them into subgroups. What are the subgroups? Subgroup is pizzas and cakes. So you divided them into subgroups. And then what you do is you identify the proportions of the subgroups in the population. Now, quota sampling, the biggest advantage is you will get the percentage of the population. Now, I'll explain in detail. Now, here you have 4 cakes and 6 pizzas. Now, the total population is 10 because 4 plus 6 is 10, and 4 cakes and 6 pizzas. The third step is to select subjects to form a sample group. Now, when you take the sample group, you take it in proportion. Now, in the major population, you have 4 cakes. You take the 50% of that. That is 2 cakes. Now, you have 6 pizzas. You take the 50% of that. That is 3 pizzas. So, in total, in your sample, you will have a collection of 5 items. Okay, so you were taking 50% of the population, you had 10 numbers of the population, you are taking 50% of that. So how do you took that? You took that as a proportion of the subgroups. Okay, so we can just say that it is in the first stage, the researcher develops control strategies or the quotas of the population elements. How do they do that? They do this by listing the control categories. Maybe age, it may be gender, it may be race, something like that. Then they are determined by the judgment of the researcher from within that particular group. How do you took that 2 particular pizzas or 3 pizzas? It is just a judgment. I just felt it like that. So you divide them into quotas, and from the quotas you take based on your judgment. Okay. So you just look at this particular table here. You can see that there are, as usual, as in my previous examples, I have a table where I have numbers 1 to 25, the respondents 1 to 25, and 5 different classes. So from quota A, I have divided them to 5 different quotas. A is 1 quota, B is 1 quota, C, D, E are the other quotas. So from each quota, I had made this particular reasoning, like I'll take 1 person. Now, how I am taking that 1 person? I'm taking that 1 person based on my judgment. Okay. It could be your judgment. It also could be the convenience. That is based on the researcher's thing. Okay. So either based on judgment or based on the convenience, you're taking 1 particular respondent out of the sample. So that is what is known as quota sampling. Snowball sampling is one of the most interesting type of sampling. Now you administer snowball sampling where at those situations where it is difficult for you to identify the population in one sense. So how do you do this? Now, where did this word called snowball come from? Now, just look at this particular video. You can see that initially there is a very small snowball that is rolling down a mountain, and at last you can see an entire mountain is falling down like an avalanche, or it becomes a big snowballing. snowball. Now just like that, here I'll explain this with an example. Just take can we find the drug users? Now you can find the drug users. Maybe some of the methods are that you can go to the police station and find the number of drug users in that particular city. You can go to the de-addiction center. But the most authentic one or the recent one could be, you can ask the drug users itself. You can ask them, like, is there anybody else whom you know according to your knowledge who takes drugs? You have your friends who takes drugs, like that. So you get referrals from them. So in this particular picture, you can see that the first respondent, you found out, maybe out of some knowledge, you found out that particular person is a drug user, and then he gave you two leads, and those 2 people have given you another 3 people, and those 3 people again gave you many others. So finally you got a big ball of them, you got a big group of samples. So this is snowball sampling. Look into this picture once again, our same picture which we tried to explain others. Here we are trying to understand who are the Nokia users in your class. Okay, so your class have 25 people, and we identified roll number 2 and roll number 9 are using Nokia. So we went and asked them, like, do you know anybody in this class who are using Nokia mobile phones? So the number 2 said yes, roll number 12 and 13 is using Nokia. Because we used to exchange data like that. No, there are some of the means by which the birds of same feather flock together, right? And roll number 9 said yes, 17 and 23. So maybe you got only 2, but at last you got close to 6 different sampling. So this is actually the way in which you administer snowball sampling. I hope you understand. This is very easy, but very easy to understand, but very difficult to administer, because it take time, it take a lot of pain to administer snowball sampling. To summarize, we spoke about different types of non-probability sampling techniques. The first one was convenience sampling, where the respondents are selected based on the convenience of the researcher. And the second one was judgmental sampling, where the respondents were selected based on the reason or the judgment or the gut feeling of the researcher. And the third one was quota sampling. It is like a multi-stage sampling, where you first of all divided the entire population into quotas. And from the quota, you took samples based on your judgment or your convenience. The last one was snowball sampling, where you had initially a respondent being taken, and from them you decided, from them you got referrals, and you got more and more samples. So these are the different types of non-probability sampling techniques. Now, snowball sampling is administered at the time when it is very difficult to get the respondents, or respondents are not easily available. It is not the fact that they are not easily available, you are not able to identify the respondent. Now, I'll take a small case here. You want to identify the drug users in a city. Now, how do you identify the drug users? Now, it's very difficult. You cannot go and ask people. Maybe you can go to the police station and ask, you can go to de-addiction centers, but one of the most authentic way is to ask one drug user. You find one drug user and ask him, like, who are the others? So you get leads from them. So based on that, maybe that person might give you 2 names. You go and approach those people, and from that, like a money chain, you spread up. Now, look at this particular picture, where you first of all have one respondent, and that respondent gave the name of 2 people, and those people gave another 3 names, and those 3 names again, each of them gave many names. So like that, it got spreaded. Now, I'm just looking at this particular table. Again, we have 25 respondents. Now, A, B, C, D, E are the different quotas. No quotas are required, but just imagine there are different sections. And 2 and 9 were identified initially in a random basis. Okay, for example, I got from somewhere that number 2 and number 9 are the Nokia users. Okay, now I asked number 2, do you know any other Nokia user? Yes, he said number 12 and number 13 are Nokia users. And I asked number 9, do you know any other Nokia users? He said 17 and 23. Now, number 12 and 13 will tell me some other number. So, basically, you will get more responses from these responses in hand. So, in short, snowball sampling is an initial group of respondents is selected usually at random. After being interviewed, these respondents are asked to identify others who belong to the target population of interest, and subsequent respondents are selected based on the referrals. Now, here we spoke about different type of